been traveling the world for the last 16 months. I'm going to be covering from digital nomading, WorldPackers and work exchange programs, budgeting, finances, and packing, as well as the emotional experience of what it's like to be traveling for so long. So it all started with me wanting to get out of LA. I'd been living there for 5 years. I had a fully remote job and they let me go. They let me travel and work. So me and my partner both had remote jobs and we started traveling across the US. And it was so magical. Being in such beautiful nature, I mean, we started out in the Pacific Northwest, which has my heart. And it was so refreshing. It was so gorgeous. We were camping every weekend. I felt so connected to the earth. But doing this and finally being in the place my soul was calling me to for so long, nature, and then having to work 40 hours a week and just being surrounded by this beautiful nature and stuck inside on my computer. That was a new form of torture for me and something I never even considered. Another factor was it was really hard to make friends working from home and moving constantly. You know, I never stayed anywhere long enough. I did about a month-long stay everywhere I went. And I never stayed anywhere long enough to make solid connections or super lasting friendships. I would try my best to get integrated. I would take yoga classes or go to meditation groups or even community theater. And it led to cool connections, but never any long-lasting friendships. And some of the best memories I have from digital nomading in the US was when my friends from LA would come out to visit me. But I will say a hack if you are trying to integrate somewhere in your digital nomading is go to a local cafe. Not a Starbucks, but a local small coffee shop, because they usually have flyers about all the community events or yoga, spiritual stuff if that's what you're into. Another thing is I chose to nomad in a lot of rural places, and that also made it more difficult to make friends because not a lot of people, in their early mid-20s are living in rural places. So I want to talk about packing when you have a car and you're digital nomading. We were using my boyfriend's sedan and we packed that car full to the brim with our stuff. I had giant suitcases. We had a ton of camping gear. We had tea sets, and I had bins from Walmart this big, just full of toiletry supplies, shampoos and lotions and all this stuff. I had a giant makeup bag, and I was these are all things I need. I thought I was living light and packing light, but it made our moving days horrible. We would dread it. It would take so long to pack the car. We had to pack it a certain way just to fill it with all our stuff. And then we'd have to drive, usually for hours, with the car this far off the ground because it's so weighed down by our stuff. I didn't end up using so much of that stuff. I didn't need to bring a whole entire wardrobe. But the thing about me is, though, I will say I do love fashion. I love clothes. So, fast forward to right now. All I have is a backpack and a carry-on suitcase. And it has made traveling from place to place so much easier. And even now, even with such little stuff, I still don't use everything I have. And I will say this, if you're planning on traveling full time, pack less than you think you need, because you will see stuff you'll want to buy, and if you don't have room for it, you'll either have to donate stuff, which I've done on this journey already, or you just can't get it. And that was kind of tough for me, especially when I started traveling internationally or going thrifting even in these cool places. It was oh, I don't even have room to buy stuff. I can't even look at the shops. And I think shopping is, not to sound superficial, but I think shopping is a cool way to experience the culture, see what people are wearing. And I love expressing myself through clothes. So limiting myself in that way has been a little bit of a challenge. I'm kind of getting sick of the few clothes I do own, but not having to deal with all that stuff is worth it. And also leaving space for more. I'm going to get into my things that I've packed that have been game changers for me later on. But it did get really lonely and isolating because, we chose really rural places. We didn't have enough time there to like really integrate and make lasting friends. So that led us to quit our jobs. Everything about that we didn't like about digital nomading, working so much, not being able to really experience the place we were in, and not being able to like be in person and make friends, led us to quit our jobs and try WorldPackers. Now, if you don't know what WorldPackers is, it's like a work exchange program where you usually work 4 to 5 hours a day, 5 days a week at whatever. It could be a farm, it could be a hostel, it could be a conservation program, it could be like anything. And in exchange, you get 3 meals a day, usually, and free room and board. And we went to Italy and did this. We made some really great friends. We had some really great experiences in Italy, and we also did this in France as well. It's hard to generalize something like WorldPackers because every stay is so different. So I'm only going to talk about the things that most stays will have in common if this is something you're going to try to do. If you're not experienced in like more manual labor type jobs, there is a chance that whoever's running the thing might talk down to you. It's like, hey sir, I can like media buy for you, but I don't know how to mix cement, It was cool to learn, but I didn't really like the sort of like belittling. And I don't want to say that for every stay, but that was just my experience. And we only made it through 2. The facility, you're staying somewhere for free, so don't expect like the nicest facilities. Traveling on a budget has really lowered my standards for living, and I'm getting a little tired. So in Europe, doing these volunteer exchange programs, you have, the weekends off or 2 days off. And we would go out and do activities. We would stay somewhere in a hotel. We would pay for our own food because, we weren't there. And it adds up so quick in Europe. Your money does not go that far out there. I was expecting it to be a lot cheaper than it was. So that's something to keep in mind. Because, you're going to want to get out of wherever you're volunteering. You're going to want to like actually see the country you're in. And in Europe, it's a little more challenging. This was the first time I wasn't like making money, and it felt a little uncomfortable to be going from a full-time job to like nothing and just kind of like living off my savings and working for my food and my shelter. It just was a little uncomfortable for me and made me tense up more around money naturally. Another thing that, hit me pretty hard about volunteering was, I was planning on doing this for a while, and I just felt like I was drifting through life. I quit my job. I'm out here like feeding chickens and working on a farm, which was cool and something I've always wanted to do, but like it wasn't my farm and it wasn't part of like a community. This volunteer experience I'm talking about now, it was just me and my boyfriend in this farm, super isolated. And it just kind of gave me this feeling like, I'm just kind of drifting through life. I'm not really like looking forward to anything. And I think you can get that feeling a lot when you're traveling and you don't have anything anchoring you. I wasn't anchored in a career. I wasn't anchored in a dream beyond traveling. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm here, I'm traveling, but like, what is this, I'm not sure if that makes sense, but hopefully I'm getting through. I realized that I did want to be building something for myself, something bigger, so I'm not just like volunteering, spending all my money, and I come back and I'm like, okay, now what? But I didn't know what that was at the time. I do now, though, and I learned through my travels. We'll get there. Oh. And another thing about packing, so I was like, I'm going to Europe, I'm going to do the backpacker fantasy. I thought I learned my lesson from digital nomading, like, I'm just going to have one backpack. My backpack literally was half my size, half my weight, and a nightmare to carry around, a nightmare to pack. I could walk maybe 5-ish minutes before needing like a break, and I had like some back issues, so it was not good. I was super unhappy with the backpack. It made the days where we had to move and travel really stressful for me. So that's when I upgraded to a carry-on suitcase and just a regular sized backpack. And I was fortunate enough because my parents met up with me and they were able to take some of my stuff back, and I was able to do that. But if I could have changed anything, I would have just started with a carry-on suitcase and a backpack and way less stuff. So after being like, okay, so volunteering, not really my thing, I'm a little lost, I'm happy I'm having these experiences, I'm like living out my dreams, but like, what do? I can keep burning through my savings in Europe, working on farms and kind of drifting, or I can fly to Thailand and figure my shit out in Thailand where I can live like a queen on a budget. So I did exactly that. I stayed in Thailand for a month. The hotel we stayed at was a luxury hotel, swimming pools, bars, restaurants, and it cost me and my partner, for a room with like a kitchen and a living area, cost us $500 for the month. That was $250 each. I was spending about $70 a week on food and maybe like $30 a week on activities. I could surf to my heart's content, and it was there that I like really locked in, figured out like how am I going to build something, and I started my course there, and it was just such a wonderful time. Okay, wait, this is not even what the video is supposed to be about. Let me circle back. Basically what I was trying to say is your money can go way further in Asia, and getting there I was like, oh my gosh. And if you spend like $30 on an activity, it's gonna be like a full activity. It includes like shuttle from your hotel, free drinks, like a full day of stuff. And I was like, you know what, let's like go to Bali too. I've always wanted to go to Bali. I thought Bali was a lot closer to Thailand than it actually is, but we still made it there. And in Bali, I feel like not to be like corny, in Bali I found my calling, kind of on some eat, pray, love type, but I went to yoga school to be a yoga teacher, just like go on a spiritual retreat, and then realized, oh my god, wait, I actually do want to be a yoga teacher. So now that's something I'm working towards. And in countries like Bali, it was really easy to meet people because it's so close to Australia. There's so many English speakers. A lot of the locals in Bali speak English really well because the alphabet is the English alphabet, and those people are just so kind and nice. It was a little harder to meet people in Thailand, but I was there in the off season, and I still did meet people and I still did make friends. And on average, living in Bali, you know, with hotels and flights and food, in Asia I was spending about $1,000 a month, which worked enough for me, especially because at this point I manifested a part-time job which covered my expenses for living in Asia. So I think having like a remote part-time job in Asia is like the sweet spot if you want to travel cheaply and meet people and experience just a totally different culture and eat good food. So moving on to some of my packing essentials. These are the things that changed the game for me on this journey. This isn't something I packed, but booking.com, I don't think I have a membership, but I kept getting these crazy discounts over and over again. So booking.com for booking places has been my savior. Way better than Airbnb. Pack less. You will be shopping. You want to leave room in your suitcase. You don't need all that stuff. If you're like on the fence about it, don't bring it. Universal outlet adapters. You can get ones that have like all different countries in one little cube. Lifesaver. Okay, so before I left, I got this tiny hairbrush. I swear to God, maybe it's like for children, but it's this big. It takes up no room in my suitcase. So I love that. Because, you know, if you're like a girl, you're packing a hairbrush, that's like, you know, they can be big. They can take up space. So finding like little travel size things is so clutch. I did get a travel yoga mat. I wish I started with a travel yoga mat. If you don't do yoga, like skip this part, but I was doing yoga on like a towel and I slipped and hurt myself a couple of times. So when I upgraded to the yoga mat, I was like, oh yes. And it folds up quite small. So if you do yoga and want to like bring your practice with you, travel yoga mat. Earplugs. I stocked up on these because I didn't know if I'd find them abroad, but I have these silicone earplugs from CVS. They're just like the generic CVS brand. They like mold to your ear and they block out so much sound. So if you're staying in hostels or in like a noisy area or don't know your situation, but like you're gonna want quiet, or even like staying in the jungle, oh my gosh, The animals there can be so loud at night. So having those earplugs were, again, a lifesaver. I should say these are my life-saving products. Another thing that actually did genuinely, I'm gonna say it again, saved my life was having probiotics. I was eating a lot of food that my body wasn't used to eating. Even in Europe, like eating a lot of bread. I don't usually eat a lot of bread. Or, in Asian countries, just eating a lot of food my body wasn't used to. And, when you're traveling to these less developed countries, your likelihood for getting food poisoning is a lot higher. And I got food poisoning 3 times, which sucked. And one time it was really, really bad. And having probiotics helped me heal from that, helped me recover from the stomach issues I got from having food poisoning so many times. And just, if I eat something that I'm like, oh God, that's not sitting right, having the probiotics on tap helped me a lot. Also, I use a period disc, which is about, it's super easily fits in my makeup bag, my toiletry bag, and it's way easier than having a bunch of tampons and pads with you during your cycle. It's reusable. The only thing is, if you're like staying in a hostel, it might be hard to wash and change. Luckily, it never lined up for me during my hostel stays where I had to do that. But overall, great for traveling because it also lasts like 12 hours without having to change it. So if you're on like a long flight, it's great. Another thing is just bring like minimal makeup. And like, unless makeup's like really your thing, you don't need like a ton of makeup. Just bring like the very basics and you'll be fine. Especially if you're traveling to like more tropical places, you don't need that much makeup. This one's optional, but really helped me a lot. Having emergency conditioner, like I filled this little bottle with conditioner, or if you're like staying at a hotel that has them, take them with you because a lot of countries don't have conditioner in the showers, like either hotel or hostel. Fortunately for me right now in Japan they have it, but in Taiwan, Bali, I don't know, a lot of places don't have conditioner, and I need my conditioner. So those are my packing essentials. And I just wanted to end this video talking super honestly about my emotions because, this is something I've dreamed of doing since I was a young teenager, a kid. I remember finding one of my old journals with like my first manifestations, and it was like, I want to travel the world, and I like wrote all the countries I wanted to go to, and it's like, here I am living in Japan right now, traveling the world, living out so many of my dreams, and it's been so awesome. But there are emotions that people doing this don't tend to talk about on social media, and just stuff that has come up for me. I feel like every dream life you manifest, you then learn the next dream life you want to manifest. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that these emotions I'm about to share with you are coming up for me. It just means I'm ready for my next dream life. But I have really messed up my root chakra in doing this. And your root chakra is your place of grounding. It's where you feel connected. It's where you feel a sense of belonging. It's where you feel like you have all your financial and like shelter needs met. And feeling and being out here for so long and not having a home or a place where I, truly belong or am a part of a community for a long period of time really messed with me. I think traveling so much and traveling for so long has been, at this point, quite overstimulating for me, which is why we decided to stay in Japan for a while. I'll be here for another month, which I've already been here for like 3 months, for like 3 weeks. So I'm just here to like really try to ground myself, build a routine, reset, try to like fight this feeling. Not fight, heal. Especially when I get sick, because, you get sick while traveling. I just feel so burnt out. I'm like, what am I doing? And I promised myself at the start of this journey that no matter where I was, if I wasn't happy or having fun anymore, that would be the end. And lately I've been having those kinds of conversations with myself and my partner saying, is this the end? And we actually have planned out, we're going to Korea, we're getting our stuff from Taiwan, and then we're going to Los Angeles and Eventually we'll go back to our parents' house, but or our separate parents' houses. So the end is in sight for us. I'll be done mid-February. So that's kind of been grounding and reassuring, but 16 months is a long time. I don't even want to count how many months it'll be till I'm done, but the feeling of burnout is real. It's also been hard, meeting people and then always having to say goodbye. I think that's kind of obvious, but I just wanted to share that is hard and that is a reality. And I think if you're traveling solo, it'll be even harder because at least I have my partner with me. But when you travel solo, and I've had some solo stints during this experience where I have made friends. And I think it is easier to make friends when you're traveling alone because you meet other solo travelers and you guys just click, you go on things together, you bond. It's amazing. But I'm also grateful to have a partner, so it's not like being completely alone. But I will say it is harder to make friends when you have a partner because everyone just assumes you're like on a date when you're like, no, like I'm actually totally open to making friends and I see him all the time. Anyways, but seeing him all the time has really, been challenging for our relationship, but has deepened our relationship greatly. I feel more in love with my partner than I ever have before, and that's saying something. Overall, though, this experience has brought me so much growth, so much evolution. I feel ready and delivered for this next stage in my life that's coming up, and I'm grateful to have the space now to ground myself and build more of what I want to be building and focus on me and my relationship to the world. I think everyone should do this. I think doing it when you're young is the best time to do it because your standards are a lot lower and you're more open. But that's not to say that you can't do this at any age. If you have any questions about anything or if you want to know more, feel free to comment below. I'm so grateful that you took the time to watch this video, and I'll see you in the next one.